Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another weather forecast here by Adrian's Weather Forecast. And in this video, we're going to be talking about why the end of next week could possibly be very favorable for quite a bit of severe weather to occur, especially as well portions of the Midwest. We may see our first severe weather of the year. Temperatures really going to be warming up, and conditions will be very favorable, not only for the Midwest, but as well portions of the plains and as well down to Dixie Alley. So we're going to be looking at why next week in general could be quite active for severe weather based on the atmospheric conditions and why they can be favorable. But I do apologize for being very inconsistent with my uploads this week. I did have a game on Thursday and I did get home quite late, and then yesterday I did have a lot of homework, so I really do apologize for being very inconsistent. Next week I do have a lot of tests, and I do actually have 3 games next week, so I'm not sure how much I'll be posting next week, so I do apologize for this inconsistent schedule. With now tennis games actually starting, I do get home quite late. Maybe I can schedule a video, but I will try my best to get as many uploads as I can next week. But be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button if you really enjoyed it, and as well, hit the bell icon if you want to get notified as soon as I post. But let's go ahead and jump into the forecast. First thing we're going to be looking at here is looking at the European model and see of course, the time frame we're looking at isn't like all of next week. It's really focusing on the mid to end of next week, between Thursday, looking at as well Saturday, and as well possibly all the way up into Sunday. So I guess getting it into even as well into the next really 10 days from now, basically, or not 10 days from now, but basically getting it really 8 days from now. So going to start really, obviously the potential, but we're really still looking at really a pretty decent likelihood of this event occurring. But let's go ahead and look at it. So here's going to be a look here at Thursday, the next 156 hours out. So like I did say, it's not too close. That's why it's going to kind of be a potential video on why next week can be quite active. But getting to now Friday, we are going to see kind of a cold front entry. It's going to be alive for that cold moisture and precipitation across portions of the Rockies and Western Plains again. March is the snowiest month for some of these areas right here, and it's going to be really showing, especially with that extremely strong La Nina type pattern we're going to start seeing throughout this month here, which is exactly why one of the reasons next week could be very favorable. So like we do know, we're going to be seeing some really warm air and a ton of moisture coming across much of the eastern United States between the end of next week here into Sunday as well. And that's going to be really allowing for some really strong storms here. Not going to be seeing as much snow developing across the Great Lakes as going to get up into possibly in the 60s, depending where you are in the 70s. So going to get really warm. So you see, really watch for those severe storms to kind of stick around across kind of areas like Chicago, maybe some severe storms across Michigan there. So we are looking at possibly our first severe storms to occur across the Great Lakes, including Lake Michigan, possibly late next week. That snow will kind of stay to the north, and then that's going to carry on to Saturday. That's going to potentially carry on that severe weather and maybe some severe storms across the Ohio Valley, maybe our first severe storms across Pennsylvania. So as temperatures do warm up quite widespread across the eastern United States, severe weather is going to definitely start to increase more in these areas, specifically as we get more into March as well. Severe weather as well, possibly watching into Monday. So this is 240 hours out here. So we are possibly looking at a very good chance for some severe weather to develop, not only in the Great Lakes as well late next week, but as well possibly some good severe weather developing as well all the way down to the South Central. So we do have quite some little days as well, kind of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and even as well Monday to watch for some severe weather throughout next week into early of the following after that. So still, it's not too close from now. However, the conditions are very likely, and we're going to start getting to that later throughout the video. So this is a look here at the latest GFS as what we have so far. So as you see, we have a low pressure on throughout Wednesday. We have a 996 millibar system here. We do have that snow towards the west of that low pressure. We have that cold air on the backside, and I guess that warmer and more moist atmosphere towards the east, allowing for that rain. But as we now get into the following system to late Thursday evening, where we do have a lot of cape. We're not a ton, not strong cape, but our highest cape, at least for the day. That's going to be kind of allowing for some little storms to fire off. Obviously, it won't be too severe, but I do believe we will see our first thunderstorms in the area across the Midwest here late next week. There across portions of northern Illinois, portions of Missouri, getting to Michigan, as well Indiana. So this will carry on into Friday. So it's going to be not too widespread. However, we'll go across all the way from Kansas to portions of northern Ohio, like near Toledo. So really watch for our first severe storms, and that will carry on throughout Saturday here across portions of the Ozarks here. So kind of a different location than what the European has, because the European kind of has those storms carrying on Saturday across the Ohio Valley into the Northeast. However, the GFS kind of keeps it more towards the Ozarks here with a high pressure right here, going to bring some really rock cold temperatures throughout these areas specifically, and then it's going to kind of bring in these warmer temperatures specifically in these areas as well. So going to kind of really bring in that nice warm air in that region there. But as it does move more towards the east, so that warm air, and as well we do have a ton of moisture coming kind of from the west here, so it's going to kind of possibly bring in some type of dry line here with the warm air just moving to the north, with that cold air moving from the west, and that moisture as well in that kind of middle area. So really watch out if there's some dry lines. But to Sunday here, these severe storms will move into the Dixie Alley region as well, all the way up to the Ohio Valley. So that's another event there throughout the weekend. And then, of course, going to be watching out into now Wednesday into the 17th. Some potential severe weather will develop across the south central. But, of course, that's still way too far out. This is obviously way too far out. But the for sure event's possibly going to be the Friday one, where it's going to be really likely across the between Thursday into Friday, and then Saturday as well as Sunday, and then even maybe some severe storms all the way into now the end of the next 2 weeks here, to March 19th, some more severe weather. So I do believe not only will this severe weather kind of ramp off at the end of next week, but this severe weather pattern will continue throughout March, like I have been saying, specifically where I have that worst that I have for my March forecast, kind of more towards Dixie Alley. So kind of if this occurs to the GFS, then my forecast will be quite correct, or at least somewhat correct, where I think the worst will happen this year. But this is what the GFS has. But let's go ahead and see the actual conditions here, looking at the shear, looking at the moisture, looking at all that, the cape, all that, to see exactly why this could actually happen. I know it's still what we are every Saturday. We're still basically, I guess, 6 to 7 days away from the first potential event. So I want to kind of give you a reasoning to why this pattern can actually happen. First thing I'm going to be looking at is actually the cape values. Let me actually move my screen a little bit lower here so you guys can actually take a look at what we're going to be seeing towards the Kansas region. So let me go ahead and move that way. There you guys go to kind of see the Kansas region. So here's a look here. Of course, cape is definitely kind of all the energy from whether it's the sun, as well as we have the helicity, all that, I guess, energy is kind of based on a number here. So the higher, the more energy. So anything really over 3,500, pretty high. Anything below that is kind of low. But if you're kind of between 3,500 and kind of 2,250, you're kind of at moderate. So obviously we're not looking at anything really in the 3,000s or anything like that. However, we are starting to get some interesting numbers. Again, guys, this is not too close. By Wednesday, we do get I guess a decent reading. Again, we're seeing 50s and 60s and maybe some 70s in the area. So the cape won't be crazy. It really won't be too crazy. But the fact that this is now into Wednesday, this is 4 days from now, we have already 600 joules per kilogram reading. Again, that's not anything bad whatsoever. But the thing is, this will be our potential first severe weather, first severe storms in the area here. Into now into Thursday, now we have those cape values getting a bit higher, I believe this is getting near 800 joules per kilogram, which is obviously not too strong whatsoever. But then we get into later into now Friday, which is kind of where we see that severe weather across the Great Lakes. We really won't have too much energy whatsoever in the area, but we will get up to possibly 700 joules per kilogram across the south central there in portions of the Ozarks. And then to Friday into Saturday, when those severe storms do move more towards the east, we will have some scattered areas of 500 and possibly 800 joules per kilogram across the Ohio Valley. So we're not looking at anything too crazy. However, Cape values are still decent, even though it's still pretty far out. So here's now a look at the south central here. So we have the same reading kind of towards Thursday. That's Cape kind of stretching all the way from Texas to the portion of the Great Lakes. But we have around 594 joules per kilogram reading there to 600 there across Texas. But then we got a pretty higher reading up to possibly near 900 joules per kilogram, nearly 1,000 joules per kilogram across portions of the south central and Oklahoma and Texas into Thursday, and they get a higher reading of 1,300 joules per kilogram in that little green color right there. So we are going to get those higher numbers as we will have a lot warmer temperatures, which is going to increase that Cape values there and increase the energy, which is kind of why we have this more severe storms in the south once you get into March. And then after Saturday, we're going to be seeing some pretty widespread 700s and 900 joules per kilogram across Texas, and again, possibly even 1,300 to possibly 1,300 joules. 1,300 to possibly 1,400 joules per kilogram. The far southwestern tip there of Texas, but according to the European, there could be quite some severe weather developing all the way up into portions of Monday. Another reason is the temperature and the La Nina-like pattern. So we're going to be seeing a really strong La Nina pattern throughout this month here as we get kind of more towards a positive Arctic oscillation, leading kind of towards those warmer temperatures to kind of push towards the east there. And that's going to allow for some colder air to kind of stick around the northwest. So into now Wednesday, which is kind of the day before, I guess, the Thursday severe weather event, or I guess severe weather storms across the plains and portions of the Midwest. So we're going to be seeing some really warm temperatures, possibly 30 plus degrees above average. According to the European, the highest reading is 33.5 degrees above average for this day. So that's why temperatures are going to be so warm across the Midwest, which is going to be leading to some higher Cape values, getting near 700 in some areas already 4 or 5 days out. So that's definitely crazy. So as we get now later on, going to see possibly 40 degrees above average right here in a portion of Canada. So we are seeing a pretty strong warm front in general here. You get 28, possibly 30, some widespread 20 to 30 degrees above average across the plains and Great Lakes. So let's say the average low, or let's say the average high in these areas is 40 degrees. At 30 to that, it's 70. So we're going to get really warm temperatures across this area, and as you see, we have the colder air towards the west. So let's go ahead and get into Thursday, see how warm it will be by Thursday evening here. And we now get to Thursday evening, we are going to be seeing some really warm temperatures in the area, specifically where we're watching those storms. So as this warm front obviously does move more towards the east, so does that cold air, which will allow it to be, I guess, even some more instability in the area when it kind of go more to the east here. Really some instability because of that cold air. You kind of see that cold front there. You kind of got this warm front as well over here. And you got the moisture as well coming from the south. So we're really watching out maybe for a dry line possibly to form here. But as you see, to Thursday evening, possibly getting up to 27, 26, 25, 24 degrees above average across portions of the Great Lakes here. So it's going to be really warm. We're going to start getting our spring temperatures, but it's going to stretch all the way to portions of Texas here. So it's going to be possibly 25 plus degrees above average from New Mexico to possibly all the way up into areas into eastern Canada to Thursday. And we go Friday when the kind of severe weather kind of sticks around these areas as well. Going to get possibly 17, possibly 10 degrees above average, where we have warmer averages, but adding 10 to 17 to those areas here. And that's going to kind of allow for that setup for Saturday across the Ohio Valley, as we're going to possibly get 20 plus degrees above average across the Ohio Valley on kind of Friday evening to Saturday. So that's going to set up the Saturday event possibly. And that colder does rush in by Sunday. And then we're going to be seeing a really big cold front by Monday, which is kind of, I doubt, the event that the European is showing here. But the reason we're really watching for that event, because you have that really warm air, spring temperatures in these areas. You got that cold air right here, so you kind of got the instability. You got the cold air right behind there. So we're going to really watching out for a dry line here, and that's going to really focus kind of these circles. Just because you're in the circle doesn't mean you're going to get a big storm. However, it means you can possibly get some thunderstorms to develop here because of the very, I guess, good conditions. Real-time temperature, though, let's actually see how warm it'll be across these areas. So this is a Monday. Looking at Monday, this is so 2 days from now, basically. You can see we're going to start getting some 60s across all the way to South Dakota. We're going to start getting our 60s there across Illinois. So we're going to be seeing similar temperatures. We actually may get warmer temperatures in South Dakota than what we're seeing in Atlanta. So that's kind of showing you how warm it's going to be across specifically the central United States here. As we now get to Tuesday, going to get even warmer, getting some 70s across Colorado, getting some 80s across Texas, getting our 60s all the way across the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. So you see, we're going to start getting some really widespread and really warm temperatures across the eastern United States, with those really cold temperatures across the Pacific Northwest. We're getting some 20s and teens once again here. That's going to kind of set up for the snowstorm tracks in these areas and that really warm air in these areas. So kind of really watching out for severe weather in these areas, basically right in between there. But let's go ahead and get to Thursday here, when we actually see that severe weather. But what I mentioned is we actually may hit 71 degrees in Kansas City on Thursday. So going to get really warm. Getting up possibly near 70 degrees there in Iowa. You can kind of see that colder does make itself a lot more to the east at this point. So that's going to really rise severe weather across these areas here as that cold front is near. But that warm front does strengthen. So to that Thursday, the temperatures can be quite warm across the Midwest there, across the Great Lakes in the 60s. Higher 60s, or at least mid 60s, and maybe some lower 60s now later into Friday. That's going to get really warm across portions of the Ohio Valley, setting up the pattern for Saturday, the next day, where we have some severe weather, according to GFS and European, across the Ozarks. And you can kind of see it's going to not be as warm. However, that is going to set up for some severe weather to develop across areas like the Tennessee Valley, of course, possibly, and as well into the Ozarks, but really Friday evening into now Saturday morning. So that kind of those temperatures into Friday evening right here, or I guess the highs for Friday carrying on to the evening will set up that pattern for into Saturday early morning, and then later on those temperatures do kind of decrease here, but temperatures, of course, in general will be quite warm across the eastern United States and central United States with that really cold air. Of course, not the Cape and the La Nina-like pattern, and the cold in the west and the really warm air in the east, and the actual 60s. Just because it's going to happen doesn't mean there's going to be severe weather. It's especially if there's dry air. You got to have a lot of moisture, and just that we will get that. So Tuesday, this is kind of a big moisture wave coming in from the west here, and you kind of have our main source as well, kind of coming in from the southwest. So we have a lot of that moisture coming from the southwest, and we got specifically as well coming from the Midwest. So as we now get into now Thursday, look at this. We have so much moisture, specifically right in the Great Lakes here. Specifically on the Great Lakes. Obviously, kind of more into Canada, but still the Great Lakes and kind of the Midwest really getting a ton of moisture by Thursday. Just kind of seeing that little event into now Friday as well. Friday getting a lot of moisture, and that's going to be, you can kind of see the moisture as it does. These storms do move more to the east, so that moisture. So you see by Friday now, those storms kind of still sticking around the Midwest, but kind of more towards a little bit now to Indiana and Ohio. But that's going to be stretching all the way from Texas there to Maine, and it's going to be a ton of moisture here. I mean, we're talking a ton of moisture. And then that's going to go into now Saturday, setting the possible event Saturday morning there, and as well possibly into much of Saturday. Got the Ozarks there, a little bit of severe weather, or at least some storms at least are across the Ohio Valley. And then Sunday possibly, where those storms do possibly form across Dixie Alley. So we will have a ton of moisture here to withstand events between Thursday and to Sunday. And of course, the more shear, the better. And just so you know, we're going to be getting a ton of shear now into now Thursday evening-ish, when those storms kind of develop across the plains and Midwest. We get a ton of shear, possibly getting over 130 knots in the higher atmosphere. Extreme amounts of shear here, kind of specifically kind of towards these areas here. So that's kind of, we got a lot of moisture, and our higher Cape levels kind of maintaining these areas. So going to really watch out for the plains into portions of the Midwest, kind of Illinois a little bit, maybe a little bit in Indiana. Again, won't be severe, won't be like extreme hail, won't be extreme tornadoes in the Midwest, but we will possibly get our first thunderstorms in the area as temperatures will be very warm. And then again, Saturday, of course, that's going to really increase, specifically in the south central now, and that's going to really take aim towards the Ozarks, kind of where, I guess at least the southern plains, where the GFS was taking aim for Saturday. And maybe some severe storms, some small thunderstorms, nothing too shabby across the Ohio Valley. So it's kind of Saturday going to really possibly kind of maintain the look toward the South Central. I do believe the GFS will be correct on that, and the European not necessarily correct. And then Sunday, of course, that now the severe weather is going to really maintain towards the South Central to Sunday. So as you see, these regions where we're looking for severe weather. So obviously Thursday and Friday is kind of these areas. I guess you could say that Thursday and Friday. And then Saturday kind of more towards the south, a little bit of severe storms here. And then Sunday, really watching these areas. You can kind of see. So let's go ahead and see Wednesday. This is Thursday. You can kind of see the worst areas right specifically. We're looking at severe weather. Thursday and Friday. And then Saturday, the worst you're going to possibly get into areas like the Ozarks. And then now to Sunday, the worst you're kind of going right into the Dixie Valley. So we're looking at very, very good conditions possibly for between Thursday into possibly Sunday. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video and see you guys later.